Hello. Welcome to the THC Show. Episode number 199, apparently. Happy to be still going here. On the show today, we're going to have 8 out of 10 Glenn, of course. Join us for the 420 session and beyond. We'll do our regular update at the CSP Healing Wave RV. We'll talk a little bit about the coming up events that are going on and what's going on in the world. But mostly, what I need to talk about again today is the refusal by Health Canada after almost 3 years of applying for a license for the Healing Wave and the CSP. It was 3 years ago this September when we put in our application, because even though the City of Vancouver had passed a motion unanimously to support our efforts, and in a meeting with them recognized that what we would do is find a storefront and that they would come and support us, they said Health Canada had to support us before they would. So we put together an application, sent it into Health Canada. We'd already been running the CSP for 3.5 years. In fact, by the time the application went in, it was getting close to 4 years. We put in an emergency application for a temporary exemption from the Cannabis Act, fearing for our own safety and liberty, with being what we're doing being illegal and a criminal offense. And the way that Canada's been enforcing this, it was definitely perilous times for us. So we pretty quickly, upon being given that information that we had to apply to Health Canada, we put together a very compelling application filled with science, doctors' recommendations about us. Professor Zachary Walsh wrote a fantastic letter stating that our efforts were saving lives and that we should not be interfered with at all in any way, that what we should be is supported, encouraged, and allowed to expand what we're doing. A 90-minute video montage of people that had been rescued from addiction because of our Cannabis Substitution Program. So we put in an emergency application for a temporary exemption to Patty Haydu, the federal health minister at the time, and to Mr. Benoit Seguin, who is in charge of the Special License and Exemption Division of Health Canada. They both responded back the next day that they had received our applications, the emergency one and the big comprehensive one about how we needed to be able to supply cannabis to people with no barriers. They said they'd respond back in a timely fashion, and then they didn't. Over 3 months went by, and then we had a Zoom meeting or a telephone conference meeting with Health Canada and my lawyer. Right away, they apologized for taking so long, a life and death issue after all. They later went on to say that they would have licenses for us, or should have licenses for us, by early January. I've stated many times on this show for the regular listeners, they failed to tell us which January they were talking about, because it certainly wasn't that next January. As time went on during that next year, we sent them many of the studies that were coming out about how cannabis was helping with opioid addiction and other things to do with that. To the point where my lawyer said, we won't bother sending them any more of the science because that jury is in. They already know that it works. But still no license. A whole year went by. The next year, on April 22nd, I got an intent to deny our application from Health Canada. Wow. They say our supply isn't regulated and that we can't be giving high-dose edibles or selling high-dose edibles to people that don't have a doctor supporting that choice. Ludicrous. What is their justification for that? Is it that our supply isn't safe? I mean, that must be what it is. What else could it be? An unregulated supply. Health Canada is concerned to the point of not allowing us to continue to dispense this unregulated cannabis that we had by that time been doing for over 4 years. Never a complaint. Never a problem. None of the cannabis that we were provided by the suppliers that have been supporting us from the beginning has ever caused anybody a problem. Period. Health Canada must think it's unsafe. But we've been demonstrating that it's safe. An illegal demonstration, just like 420 and Cannabis Day, where we gather and allow people to sell cannabis to each other all day long with the protection of the numbers that we have. No one was ever harmed. So if it isn't about our supply not being safe, that only leaves one reason why that would be a problem. And that is because Trudeau's not going to get his cut if it's unregulated. Regulation of cannabis in Canada is not about safety. In fact, it's been quite the opposite. We never had any problems with cannabis for the most part, for all the time it was prohibited here. There was never any public health warnings about a batch of cannabis that was causing people with issues or blah, blah, blah. No hospital wards full of people with brown lung. In fact, the opposite kept happening. Cannabis is cancer inhibitive. Cannabis helps with this medical problem. Cannabis helps with this. All the science that kept coming out over the last 20 years has been about how cannabis is a medical product that helps people, and yet the government continues their lies and continues the criminal prohibition. Outrageous. We never had a problem with cannabis before it was legal. Then Trudeau comes along and legalizes cannabis and lets a bunch of people in that are only interested in money, and they poison people. There's lawsuits. There's been recalls. The legal cannabis is very suspect about whether or not it's safe, not the unregulated cannabis. So that just leaves the one motivating factor for Health Canada as to why they would not want us to be providing an unregulated source of cannabis, and that is because they're not getting their cut. Money is driving the decisions of Health Canada. Outrageous. Criminal. And then there's the second reason. Full-grown Canadian adults can't be given access to high-dose cannabis edibles without a doctor on board because that stuff's dangerous. Really? In a world where they sell commercial tobacco, known to kill 4 to 6 million people worldwide every year, comes with all these health warnings on the package. They know it's a deadly carcinogen that kills people and maims people. Number one reason for hospitalizations in Canada is to do with smoking cigarettes. But that stuff's available in stores, gas stations, all over the place. Less than 300 kilometers or meters from each other, right next to schools. They allow for the sale of that deadly carcinogen in storefronts where people can walk in and purchase legally that which is likely to kill or maim them. Alcohol. Do you need a doctor's supervision to use alcohol? Now that shit is dangerous. We have hundreds of people every year die of alcohol poisoning here in British Columbia. You don't ever hear any talk about that. You don't have Bonnie Henry, our health person, standing up there and talking about, well, Fred died of alcohol poisoning last night and that's the third one in the last 5 days. Or you never hear anything about it. In fact, the government are the profiteers on alcohol. Seems like a bit of a conflict of interest if you ask me. Full-grown Canadian adults can't have access to high-dose cannabis edibles because it's dangerous? What the hell do doctors know about it? What kind of safety is there in a doctor supervising your intake of cannabis high-dose edibles? Number one, it's not in their interest, because now you're not going to be taking the pharmaceuticals that they make money off of. But what do they know? They have no experience with cannabis. They probably believe the reports that were put out by the corrupt side of the world here about cannabis problems, when we all know that's all just bullshit. Those are studies put together with large dollars behind them to say exactly what they want to say, and the ones that don't say what they want to say, they don't even release. The doctors probably buy right into all of that because that's within their interests. It's not in their interest to support their patients using non-pharmaceuticals. So why should they be trusted with any decision to do with any of that? And as for monitoring a person's use of high-dose edibles for safety reasons, all the doctor can do is do what we've been saying all along. Put it on the label of anything sold retail, start low, go slow, or you might have a bad experience. Not going to kill you, no long-term health effects, you just won't feel very good, your head will be thick, you can't get out of bed, you're going to hang on to a pole, whatever, you're going to think you're going to die in many cases. That's all. The doctor can't help you with that any more than a little label that says that would help you. That should be common knowledge. Cannabis edibles, when the doses are, getting up there, if you don't have experience with it, could cause a very uncomfortable experience. That's all people need to know. Nothing else a doctor can do for you. What's he going to do? Tell you, all right, well, just start at 10 milligrams then, and then come back and see me. All right, the 10 milligrams didn't hurt you? All right, go to 20 then. You do that yourself. We're not stupid. We don't need expensive doctors that are in short supply in a strained medical system being involved with how we take the cannabis edibles. And if cannabis edibles are so dangerous in the first place, then why is it okay for people to go and buy whatever cannabis they want for recreational purposes from the government stores, extract the cannabinoids, and turn them into edibles? Or grow 4 plants or more. 4 if you want to stay within the law. I personally, on that note, would definitely purposely grow more than that just to make a point. Just like our rallies and protests, we sell cannabis even though it's illegal just to make the point. 4 plants. Who the hell do they think they are? These are not our masters. They did not buy us from some other country as slaves that they can order around and make do whatever they want. These are public servants. We fought wars over this. We've been fighting the elite financial forces on this planet as the masses of people since the beginning of people. Those that have want to take from those that don't have as much because they have the power to do that, and that's been going on forever. Wars have been fought, all kinds of fights about all of that kind of stuff. That is just the human way. Those that have the most and have the ability and the power to be able to take from the others, that's just what they do. That's why all these rich people around the world own what they own. Trace back their fortunes and find out that they took from others, that they've exploited people that didn't have the power to resist it. This is not the world that we should be moving into as a civilized human race of people that have aspirations of living for the next hundreds of years and exploring our solar system and beyond. We'll destroy ourselves if we continue to fight amongst ourselves over who's got the most and can take from the others. These wars have to stop. They should have stopped a long time ago. But that's just how powerful these people are. They're so powerful that in a country like Canada, which isn't the Canada that I thought we had going on for a long time, because they really sell it like it's a utopian fairy tale here. Like everybody's so nice and polite and, we're just tolerant people, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, most of the Canadians are. Not all of them, but a lot of them. It can be the spirit of Canada as far as what it is to be a Canadian. But I'll tell you, the government is not reflective of that. They've been lurking in the shadows, exercising their powers in subtle ways for all of these many, many years of confederation. And when push came to shove, we find out that all of the different rights and privileges that we think we have, there's clauses on all of those. That, oh yeah, well, by the way, if the government decides to, they don't have to abide by this. You don't have the rights that you think you have if the government so chooses. And really, we found out during the pandemic just how powerful, corrupt, and outrageously blatant these so-called public servants are about the power that they wield over us. We are living in dangerous times. For me, 25 years ago, when I really figured out the basis of the truth to do with cannabis prohibition and realized just how bad this is, me, some type of a, wide-eyed idealist, grew up in a Christian home, thought that, the policemen were my friends and the governments were public servants and, I was the master of my fate. Had a pretty rude awakening when it really hit home. If you can't access this plant that grows in nature for millennia, that has a symbiotic relationship with us as human beings because our endocannabinoid system is simply a mimic of the cannabinoids that our ancestors for millennia have been ingesting to build the bodies that we have today. It is entwined in our beings like that. And yet these corrupt public servants can make you, a free person, a criminal for having anything to do with it. They did it for almost 100 years here in Canada, and they're still doing it today, over 100 years later. But now you can have some cannabis. You can have the cannabis that you grew yourself or that somebody gave you, so that's great. That's really nice of the king to allow that. And you can have cannabis that you bought from the government store, but don't be calling it medical. Even though it's going to supplement your endocannabinoid system, it's going to help you sleep, it's going to give you back your appetite, it's going to elevate your mood, and all of those medical things that it does. You can't call it medical, they won't call it medical. And you're still a criminal if you got it from somebody other than them. And you're still a criminal if you grow more than you're allowed, or if you try to sell to somebody what you have. These are corrupt times, and this is the best example. 4:19, you got 1 minute. If you got anything rolled up, well, get ready to spark it. If you don't, you got a minute to roll it. I trust you can do that. I can roll a joint in a minute quite easily myself, complete with grinding and rolling and get it done. So if you can't do that, well, you should practice it so that you can, because I'm only giving you a minute on this show. So if you don't have it rolled already and you can't roll within a minute, well, you might miss the 420 moment. 420 means Glenn Wells is here as always. Well, Mr. Wells, how you doing?
All right, how are you?
I'm feeling pretty good today.
All right, let's
I'm hating my set.
let's test that.
I'm hating my set.
I wanted to grind and
Oh,
roll.
I know why I'm hating my set, because you just moved the camera.
Yes, I know, because I have to squeeze in too.
So, there's boxes of stuff and everything up there.
I think I'm blocking the boxes.
You want to go put some cat food there? We'll get the cats in on the
Sure, yeah, sure. Another assistant prime.
Because you see, really, you got more than right at 420 to have it ready and spark up. That's my opinion.
Oh, I see.
Not that means anything. But how can it only be a moment there when you're talking about people that use cannabis? Because people use cannabis, time, is not as respected, I guess, as it is for those people that are much more rigid in how they do things. See if we can get some.
Douglas says, "Good afternoon, Dr. Glenn and Neil."
There we go. We got Sam up here.
His eye's doing much better.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
We just missed him coming on the show last week.
Well, he had more.
I mean, I know he had.
That's more.
I feel like I just missed him. He didn't feel like he did.
No.
He knew. But because we would have planned that a lot sooner than we did, and we should actually one day plan that.
Yeah.
Lots to talk about there.
Huh.
Okay, smoking anything in particular?
Smoking some Pink Death with some Death Bubba Shatter.
Let's see.
Double deadly.
I got not my regular mix because we have so many different strains of cannabis here at the Healing Wave and the Cannabis Substitution Program.
So many.
We're very, very blessed in that respect. And I like to take some of what would be the favorites and just put them together. And in this particular batch, I got, you and I are long lost brothers from different mothers apparently or something like that. But I got my little batch there. What I rolled up in this batch was some of the strawberry Romulan that I got from Miss D last week that I smoked on the show.
Yeah.
And then some juicy fruit that's come along that's really potent.
So you put it together.
Put all that together in there.
Ooh, juicy.
I haven't gotten through a joint successfully yet. Which, that's how you know, right?
All right.
Wow. And if you want to fight about that,
I want to see you.
September 1st.
Yeah, yes. I want to see you grind and roll in a minute. Let's put a timer on your phone. Yeah, can you do it?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. All right. Here, let's get a timer going in here.
I'll get a bud. You get the timer.
Yeah, I will.
Let's roll the joint in a minute.
We need a timer.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that's a good joint there. Pretty sure there's a little bit of that juicy fruit in there.
Hey Google, set a timer for 1 minute.
Oh, we got right now, eh? Go.
No. I'll just get there and then I'll pause it.
Oh, just gonna wait a minute because the grinder's got to be primed. I don't know if that should be part of the minute or not, but sometimes the grinder gets a little sticky if the bud's sticky. And I just rolled up all those joints there, and it's already sticky. So if that happens, take a little rubbing alcohol.
Are we ready?
Are we ready?
All right, yeah, we're ready.
All right, I'm
Okay,
ready.
and go.
Go.
Okay. There's the timer.
Can he do it? So, and if you want to see more of this type of thing,
Yeah.
September 1st, they're going to have pot fights. I don't know what that necessarily means, although
Oh, it's fun.
I'm
We're
sure
gonna have some fun.
it's all about having fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
Be first of its kind.
so apparently, I've been challenged to a duel with Asia May Moon from Three Happy Cats. Mm-hmm. And I think she's cheating right off the bat.
30 seconds.
That's the issue. Is I think she's cheating.
Yeah.
Because she told me in public on Cannabis Day on stage that it was all going to be about rolling joints.
Yeah.
I'm the head of the joint rolling committees here.
15 seconds.
Oh my God, I did.
You did it.
Probably rolled 2 of them. All right.
All right, done?
Oh yeah.
All right. Pause. All right.
And in any good joint
With
rolling,
3 seconds left.
you also have to make sure it smokes properly, right?
Yeah.
It can't just be. So there
you go. He
This
did
is
it. There
a
you go.
demonstration of what Asia May is going to be facing on September 1st as competition. Although I didn't practice for this at all, this was spontaneous. You just told me to do that. I had them all pre-rolled.
Well,
Let's see if it smokes.
When you tell people that you can do something, but show them that you can do it, right?
Truth.
There you go. Then
Truth, hope, and change.
It's there forever. It's on video. Everybody can know that you can roll a joint in under.
Well, I already came in
under a minute.
I already came in second at the joint rolling competition at the Prairie Medicinal Cup in Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
With Jeff Lundstrom there. I already came in second.
Who beat you?
Oh, I don't remember.
You remember?
How am I supposed to remember anything when you're in a Cannabis Cup? I'm lucky I remember I won anything.
I remember I won a bronze for guessing the weight of the bud.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I won a bronze medal. I'm eating that at home with pride.
I should have been able to kick
my
that
only
one
bronze
really
medal
good.
my whole life.
I didn't win that one, but I entered it. Yeah, he had great competitions there going on for cannabis. At
Yeah.
the Prairie Cup.
That's fun.
So yeah, May tells me that it's all about rolling a joint.
Yeah, and now it's about singing.
But now it's apparently about singing. And it's not just about singing. It's about writing a song.
She wanted to write a new song other than.
She didn't tell me.
No?
No, I guess she expects I'm going to watch this show that she was on. What was she on? Monty's show?
Ken's Cafe.
Ken's Cafe.
Yeah, I don't know who it is.
I don't even watch my own show, to be honest. I wouldn't even know about it if I wasn't actually doing it myself. I do know other people have shows. I have no time to watch shows. I have no time to read a lot of things I want to read. I have no time to... Time is not my friend. I don't have a whole bunch stacked up somewhere that I'm just looking to use somewhere.
Yeah.
Not a chance. I have a hard time finding time for anything that I want to do. I'm pulled numerous different ways. I'm already overtaxing myself. I need more sleep. I need a vacation.
Yes,
I need
you
time
definitely
for
need a
things that are not involved in all of this. But
Yeah. That's right.
anyway, I'm supposed to write a song. I learned it by you sharing this clip from her on a show somewhere.
Yep.
And not only that, like, she's a cheater. There's a reason why May and I are going at it. Apparently, I mean, she says Neil and I are mad at each other because it's something to do with 420. Yeah, well, May, you jumped the gun and did some things, and so I didn't do anything. I mean, I don't think you should be mad at me. The only thing I did was I wrote my truth out on Facebook there because I had to, because all the things that were being said. I had to do that. I had to say, well, this is my truth. This is what happened. This is why I made the decisions I made and what I was presented with and all the rest of that.
In all fairness, John Murray was poking that bear.
Oh, big time.
Right?
Oh,
So
for sure.
that's probably why.
I'll never mention him again.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Seriously.
Well.
But no, seriously, so May's doing the best she can with who she is, doing what she thinks is right to do. I understand all of that. I don't really have a bone with her about any of that, really. And if she's mad at me, well, she just wasn't living my life in my shoes to understand why I made the decisions that I made with the information that I had. And maybe I didn't have all the information, and that's always the case. You never really know, Yeah. You try to do the right thing, but the hardest thing about doing the right thing is knowing what the right thing to do is. So anyway, I tried to do the right thing, and so I stand by all of that. And apparently you were having a little feud or something, which I wasn't really aware of.
But it's not so bad that you're not invited.
Pod Fights apparently is trying to mend parts of this community with people that have little feuds with each other. I think that could be dangerous stuff.
It could be, or it could work out.
Well, if we all try to have fun, and I believe almost all these things, whatever they are pretty much misunderstandings.
Yeah.
Other people not being in the other person's shoes to understand why those decisions were made the way that they were, and sometimes there's malice involved, but even when there's malice involved, it's because of misunderstandings about some other things that we're all just doing the best we can.
Yeah.
So whatever. But apparently this is about some people, mending some fences there by fighting with each other.
That's good. Skunk Punk's going to be there too. Right.
Well, Jeff apparently is sparring off against Karen.
Oh, and Karen is who?
Well, she was one of the main organizers of the Harvest Medicinal Cup there back in the day.
Ah.
And
okay.
I don't get into a lot of gossip.
Yeah.
I get told things, from time to time to find out. I'm usually the last one to know most of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But there was a falling out of some sort between Karen and Jeff. And I know Karen wanted to tell me her side of the story, and she believes fervently that she was in the right and whatever. And if I'd have breached the subject with Jeff, he would have told me the same thing, because that's what everybody believes, right?
Well,
everybody's got their side. There's all these sides to every issue, and people, believe that they were in the right.
Well, I'm glad everybody's putting everything aside and agreeing.
They're having a pillow
this.
fight, apparently.
Yeah, a pillow fight. That's good.
Pillow fight.
That's good. That's good.
I think that pillow should be filled with pot leaves, for one thing.
Or gummies.
Gummies? Well, that would hurt.
Would it?
Oh, man, those things are heavy.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Oh, man. When I go to pick up gummies from one of our main suppliers here for the CSP, he's got like 3 shopping bags, like Safeway kind of bags. Oh, man, totally heavy.
Wow, okay. Well, maybe
very, very heavy. If you could get one of those swinging and you could hit somebody with one of those, you could do some damage, man, I'll tell you. No, fluffy pot leaves.
Fluffy pot leaves.
And even buds would be too heavy, because some of those growers are growing pretty dense buds.
Yes, some pretty dense buds.
It's just got to be leaves in the pillow fight. So I don't know how a pillow fight qualifies in a pot fight unless you got pot leaves in the pillow.
Maybe the pillow will be covered in pot leaves.
Maybe the pillow is irrelevant. The pot was between the two of them or something. Or they're talking about Lum's pot or something like that.
I don't know.
I listened to Lum's speech at Cannabis Day there.
Yeah.
Powerful speech.
It was.
I thought that, talking about freedom, and what this is supposed to be all about, and what those cops were there supposed to be protecting was freedom, and instead they're there protecting these licensed producers, and that if we were free in Canada, then we would be able to trade cannabis amongst ourselves. We would have lounges to consume cannabis, all over the place, and there would certainly be no criminal offense involved. So I thought, and he was very much more succinct. I thought he nailed it quite well. Great guy, alum with the work that he's done out there in Saskatoon and Saskatchewan for all these years, and here too.
Yeah.
I mean, he mentioned it was his 15th Cannabis Day in a row that he's come to Vancouver for Cannabis Days. So, he's been a big part of the scene around here as well. And so, he's going to be there.
Here, somebody just gave you a song.
Oh, yeah. I'm supposed to write my own song.
Tony Oliviero, a poem song about cannabis and 420.
Look, I don't know what the rules are. Officially, I don't even know. Officially, I just believe we're rolling joints.
Yeah.
But, what I heard on what her say there, she's got some rapper dude that's helping her write some cannabis song to kick my ass with. and I probably don't get to do cannabis. I mean, I don't know why not.
I'll send it to you.
It's the one I know the best. It's the only one I know.
This is great.
Oh,
thank you very much. It's so nice that people
I'll
are
have a look at that.
I'll send it to you on. Wow.
I mean, she's got some rapper dude helping her. I mean, maybe I could take some help from somebody here too.
Yeah.
I need it for sure, 100%. It took me a whole weekend to write cannabis, and the tune was already set. So how am I supposed to put together a whole song? But it would be any good? I don't know. I don't know. The pressure is intense,
Yeah.
Well, because I have to beat her. No, I don't. I can't beat her. That's the thing. How do you beat a girl in a contest?
I don't know.
I'm old school. I'm sorry. I'm not in today's. I hope that's not offensive. I don't mean for it to be offensive. I don't ever try to offend anybody, but apparently you got to be really careful what you say these days about all kinds of things if you're offending people.
All right.
But for me, it's not right to beat a girl in a contest of any sort.
Why not?
It doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel right? Oh, come on. You're too old.
Like the guy that was threatening me down the street recently here because he wanted the seat that I was going to sit at before he got there.
Yeah.
I mean, does he really want on his record that he beat up some old guy? You want to be doing time because you beat the crap out of some old dude? Come on.
When I was in jail in the 90s, the jail population didn't like that. You don't beat up on old people.
No.
You don't rob old people. You don't rob children and old people. And so...
No, he was just a goof. I was doing a co-op radio.
Now, right?
I was being interviewed on co-op radio, and you can't get into the building until the producer gets there. And so I had to wait, and I stood for a while, and then I needed to sit down. So there was a table there, for people to sit at. And I walk over, and I basically put my leg over the stool, and here's this idiot coming along, tough dudes, hey, old man, get out of here right now. Move it along.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man, that's a terrible thing.
Did you old man him and take out his kneecaps or
well,
something?
that is the instinct, right? That is the instinct to do that.
I'll old man you.
But, it's not the right thing to do.
No.
For me, personally, to engage with a young, tough dude, angry here on the downtown east side of Vancouver, to be in a fight, no. No, that's not who I am. That's not what I do. And I'm also not going to, just cold cock him once and put him out because that's not cool either. And, and then sometimes you do and sometimes you don't, and if the guy's ready for it. And there's stabbings going on in this neighborhood quite a bit more in the last couple of weeks even. And so people are typically armed. They're ready for it. He was in a mood to fight. And I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover. So I just walked away and I ignored him. But I had a bad dream.
I've had a fight in a long time too, but I always remember Confucius say, man, like tree, take away roots and he falls down. So that's why you go for the kneecaps, because once they're down, they can't get back up again. And make sure you do a good job because you don't want them to get back up again.
I hate to say it, but for me it was the groin.
Oh, the groin. You went for the groin.
I never went for the groin. But the groin was always the place where I would go if it was right down to it.
Brutus says, just tell him to suck your nut.
I don't think he would have liked that very much. I don't think he would have done it. But no, I used to be a fighter. I've always been a lover too, but I mean, I used to have to fight. I'm not as big as some other people, and when I was going to high school in Surrey, people picked fights with me almost on a daily basis.
Wow.
My cousin then made the National Hockey League, Neil Magnuson,
and then there's
and he did it because he was a fighter.
Yeah.
He turned out to be a stellar defenseman that could keep the puck out of his net. He played some amazing hockey, some of those Stanley Cup finals against the Montreal Canadiens. He was incredible. What a defenseman he was. But he wouldn't have made the league if he wasn't a fighter. He had to be willing to drop the gloves with anybody, anytime. They drafted him out of college, which was unheard of at the time.
Wow.
Keith actually paved the way for many other players that came out of college after that. But anyway, Keith was my cousin, second cousin, and that meant so much to me growing up. But he was a fighter, and he right away took boxing, and he right away took the martial arts. So I took the martial arts, and I took boxing. And I was toughened up by just, people picking fights with me all the time anyway, and, having to do that.
Yeah.
But then I took boxing first. Never fought in the ring, other than sparring during, practicing. We sparred. But I never entered a contest, anything like that. I just went down with a couple of my friends, and we would box with the New Westminster Boxing Club. And I got in lots of fights afterwards there because we typically go down to the bar and drink, and alcohol and boxers.
Let's go boxing while we're drunk. Yeah. No.
Yeah, so I did do a fair amount of fighting.
Yeah.
And then also when Keith made the National Hockey League, I wanted to play. I could skate because we've been skating when the ponds froze over here and at the rinks, and I was a roller skater. I played roller hockey, like league roller hockey. I played also ball hockey, just in running shoes, street hockey, in a league.
Yeah.
So I had all that stuff going on, and he sent me equipment that was like adult size equipment for
for a kid,
14-year-old kid, and so I started playing hockey. And that first year, I made it into the rep team.
Oh, wow.
Made it onto the rep team. And so, you get your name on the back of your jersey there. And, of course, I'm going to be number 3 like Keith. And it didn't take more than once around the circuit, and everybody knew I was Keith Magnuson's cousin.
Wow.
And so they all wanted a piece of me. Keith he held a record for the most penalty minutes in the season for a while there. Yeah. I think Tiger Williams took that away from him.
Yeah, Tiger Williams would do that, yeah.
But... I had to fight. I had to fight. And so I did fight a lot. But then when I took martial arts, that's what changed everything for me.
Yeah.
Within several months, they felt I was capable of now taking this specialized training that was all about taking out kneecaps, groins, other pressure points, doing serious harm to people, to the point of death. And man, I'll tell you, I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah.
And I never really wanted to hurt anybody that bad, ever in my life. Most people are just picking on me for reasons unbeknownst to me most of the time. But, like somebody's smiling too much, I think.
I played hockey in Rexdale, Ontario.
Rexdale
Ramparts.
So you must have had some fights.
No, I got an assist as a goalie.
Oh, you were a goalie.
Yeah,
that's why you didn't have any fights.
And then I went up to defense, but defense was only a couple of weeks because I couldn't be a goalie anymore. But I passed the puck to the guy who scored the goal.
Nice.
And I didn't even know that, right? Until I got in the dressing room and they go, "Yeah, you got a point today." I got a point? How did I do that? But when you passed the puck and he scored the goal, you get a point. I was like, yeah. So that's my glory for hockey.
Nice.
For hockey, right? So, yeah.
I couldn't score a goal to save my life for the first half of my hockey career. Well, Keith never scored a goal. He did. But seldom more than 1 or 3 in a season.
Yeah, but
he was not a goal scorer at all.
Yeah.
And I just took to heart, everything that he was doing. And I was a stay-at-home defenseman. I was a knock-you-on-your-ass defenseman. You were not going to score on me. I'm very competitive. And so, whenever I would get that opportunity, there was many times I'd be breaking out of the zone and somebody would pass me the puck. And once I crossed the center line, I didn't know what the hell to do. I just looked for anybody that had the same color shirt as me, and I gave it to them, and then I backed out. And
so take it, right?
So then I didn't play hockey. I don't know how we got on hockey, but anyway.
I don't know, you started. We didn't talk about
it's my 199th show. I can talk about whatever I want. It's my party, and I'll do what I want.
That's next week, buddy.
I started early. I'm always there, not only on time, but early. So all that part of playing hockey up until grade 12, I was just a defenseman, and that was that for that. And I was, like I said, in grade 12, I had an injury. I twisted over on my ankle. I'd been stretching, or what's the word to use? Anyway, I broke whatever it was I'd been stretching prior to that.
Okay.
Now I'm on crutches. Now I don't play the rest of the season.
Wow.
I didn't do it during a hockey game. I just did it at high school.
Yeah.
Coming down the front stairs of the high school.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
And the doctor who had said, oh, nothing wrong with your ankle. You know, many times when I had twisted on it before, I would go and see this doctor that I had. Then I go and see, oh, something wrong with your ankle. So that put me out of hockey. And when I finished high school, I'd been working during the weekends and summer holidays with my dad doing construction. I just went straight to work. And even, you know, once my ankle healed up, you know, it was school got out, my ankle heals. I didn't start playing hockey that next year. I was working with my dad's, the company that he worked for.
Yeah.
And I didn't think of hockey for quite a while.
Oh, wow.
So then I got married, built a house.
Yeah.
And out in the backyard, I guess I was building the sun deck at that point. It was a new subdivision, so there's a whole bunch of new houses being built. I didn't do the frame and the foundation and the roof and the drywall. That was all done by a contractor, but I came in after that and I did all the rest of the house. So I'm out working on my backyard. I'd gotten to know this new neighbor that had moved into the new house that was just across the lane there, and I'm up, you know, building this balcony, and his wife's out on their balcony. And I say, hey, where's Corey? And she said, oh, Corey's playing hockey tonight. And I went, oh, wow, hockey. Hadn't thought of hockey for a while. And think I still got equipment. And so Corey allowed me to play with his team. It was a team of people made up from Safeway and Block Brothers. They had combined for a beer league team.
Block Brothers?
Block Brothers.
Oh, I don't know what they are.
They're do your taxes.
Okay.
And so they let me play with them. And so the first time out, you know, I got my equipment on, I'm there. What position do you play?
Yeah.
Oh, I play defense.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm playing defense, and I get one of those opportunities. You know, I'm coming out of my own end. They pass me the puck, and I right away flub it. You know, as soon as I get past center ice, and I went, "What the hell just happened there?
Yeah.
Like, why am I not taking the puck in and scoring with it?
Yeah.
Or, you know, doing something creative with it."
Yeah.
And I thought, well, because that's just how I always was.
Yeah.
And why was that? Because you see, during the time in between, I read a lot of very interesting books. I learned a lot of things. If you can count to 4, you can have and do anything. The Power of the Hypnotic Technique of Milton H. Erickson III. There's a lot of books I read in there. The Power of the Subconscious Mind. And so, and along those lines, creative visualization, power of the subconscious mind, all mind work. And so I thought, well, I'm just playing the wrong video, and I got the wrong belief system going on.
Yeah.
I don't believe I can score a goal. I don't believe I'm going to do anything creative when I cross that center line, and I'm just going to change videos. Like I like Bobby Orr.
Yeah.
Bobby Orr was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, won scoring titles. He was still one of the best players ever. I'm not sure how he would line up today with but he would. Yeah. He would have had the same training regimens that they have today. He would have been in the same kind of physical shape, and he would have blitzed hit that amazing skill of his all over the ice. He was incredible. So I tried to play like Bobby Orr.
Zito was pretty good too. So.
Well, there's a lot of great players for sure, but Bobby Orr as a defenseman, that was unheard of. Prior to Bobby Orr, I mean, defensemen, most of the time, most defensemen throughout the history of the NHL, they were just defensemen.
Yeah.
You know, if they scored a couple of goals, that was a bonus.
That was a bonus.
But Bobby Orr came along, and wow, 100-point plus seasons. The one thing I remember most about Bobby is that when he would get the puck when they were killing the penalty, the other team wouldn't get it back.
No.
He would just skate around them, shoot it back to one of his own players, and then he'd get it back, and he'd skate some more. He was incredible, that guy. So, I mean, of course, I never was Bobby Orr, but I changed the way that I played.
Yeah.
And I decided I loved scoring goals. Scoring goals was a blast.
Yeah, it does,
So, and it wasn't too long before they decided I could play center ice instead of defense, and so I played center for the rest of it until I broke my back in a hockey game. I went headfirst into the boards one day, and November.
That was it,
Yeah, November 7th, 1985.
Wow.
Beer league hockey game late at night.
After some beers?
A little, and it wasn't actually a beer league game. It was a beer league practice.
Okay.
But the practices were games.
Yeah.
We were, nobody practiced. There was no coach.
Okay.
There was no, okay, everybody do side steps along the blue line or anything like that. It was, you guys in the white jerseys are going to play against you guys in the black jerseys, and that's what we did. That was every practice. So it was almost always the same guys against the same guys. And we got quite the rivalry going on between
the two guys. Yeah, of course.
There was three brothers that played together on the other team. And at that point, was I playing? Anyway, I beat one of them to the puck.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. The puck was dumped in. I beat him to the puck. I made the play on the puck, but he hit me hard. And you went we were hard hitting people. And he got my stick up under his chin. Yeah. I did not butt end him under the chin. I would not do that. I'm not a dirty player. Yeah. I never was a dirty player. But he didn't like that at all. So now he's going to fight with me. Yeah. Well, you know, I'm used to fighting. So I quickly put him on his back, and I'm hovering over top of him, and I'm going, buddy, I don't like this. I don't like getting hit like that. You know, I got a family. I go to work in the morning. Not here to get hurt. Stop fucking hitting me like that, right? Like, it was done on purpose. They were doing it all the time. That was the way they played. They dumped the puck in, and then they just cream you, and that's what they like to do. And, you know, I got no insurance. Nobody's paying me to play. So we had that little brief conversation there. I never hit him.
Did you listen?
Well, he got injured later on in that game, and he wasn't there the next game. But his brothers, the attitude amongst the team was that I'd beaten this guy up. I never hit him once. I simply put him on his back and had a conversation with him. Yeah. And so the next game practice, the other two brothers are out to get me. Oh, wow. And so, you know, I'm like, what? And I remember thinking about it, you know, what am I going to do? Am I going to quit playing with these guys, or am I going to start hitting like they hit? Because, you know, I had my... I could have, but I didn't think it was right. I didn't think we should be hitting each other like that, you know? Yeah. So, anyway... buddy, you know, one of the brothers, the puck is on the sideboard right about at center ice, and we're sort of going parallel to the center ice line to get it, right? Yeah. And I always win the race to the puck and make a play. That's what you do, right? Yeah. Like I said, I'm very competitive. Yeah. But this time, I'm thinking, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hit him, and I'm going to hit him first. Yeah. And so before we got to the boards, we both had the same idea, and we went shoulder to shoulder, and he went that way flying, and I went straight ahead into the boards flying. That's it. And hit my head. Oh, wow. Crushed the second. I don't know how it hit. I don't remember. Yeah. I guess it hit like sort of here because it crushed the second lumbar in my lower back. Wow. Which I found out later after being moved back and forth off the X-ray tables 3 times. Anyway, we're so far off any topic to do with...
That's why we're talking about your past hockey experience. What would help people get to learn,
Nobody wants to know my hockey history.
Well, there's 11 people still watching, so it's not at 0, so you must have some people interested.
They're not watching. You know. They're just doing dishes and the computers on the table.
You don't do dishes and have us videos green around the water because it could fall in.
And they're just listening at this point. It's on the kitchen table, and they're just... Oh man!
What else you got?
Well, I got BC Bud Day coming up there.
Not this weekend.
On the 7th.
Yes, because
that's the weekend. The actual holiday is on the 7th, and that's a Monday.
Yes,
but it's that whole weekend. That it is the BC Bud Day weekend, and with the interference we got from City Hall, this BC Bud Day is going to be devoted to Ken Sim. That tyrant of a mayor, the worst mayor we've ever had in Vancouver already, and only barely a year, if a year, into his tyrancy. But he's decided to clean up the streets here in Vancouver, and they look a lot better. Mm-hmm. But the human carnage that came out of that is deplorable, to say the least. It's outrageous. The way that they have moved people on is inhuman. And the people had no place to go. There was no accommodation for most of them. And they've now moved into other communities around Vancouver that don't have quite the tyrant for a mayor, and they're causing the same kind of issues that they were causing here. I'm not saying that there should have been tents allowed to be all over the streets, blocking doorways and fire hazards and all the rest of it. That is not something that we should have going on in our society. But it's government policy that's driven all of that. It's the attack on the poor and the disabled, the mentally ill, the addicted, that our governments across the country are actively involved in. It is a crime to be poor in Canada. And once you're down, they kick you down farther every step of the way. Once you have been traumatized, they continue to traumatize you. There's very little real assistance and real help for people that get into that spiral. There's all kinds of mechanisms to keep people there because it's a money-making opportunity, and that's what the government does with it. It's about money and votes. They can say they're doing a bunch of stuff about it. They can show that they're spending millions of dollars to try to solve the issue by giving that money to friends of theirs to do very little with it, but to make sure that it keeps on coming.
Yeah.
There's very little motivation to actually do something to prevent these poor, suffering, traumatized human brothers and sisters of ours from ending up in the straits that they're in here in Canada. It is absolutely deplorable. It's deplorable how we handle our Indigenous situation. It's deplorable how we handle the poor in this country. And it's deplorable how we handle the cannabis community in this country, just to name 3 real glaring examples of just how bad it can be here, for sure. So Mayor Sim decided that he could just clean up the streets. It's easy. You just bring in a great big dump truck, a whole bunch of cops, big guys with shovels, and throw everything that people have into the garbage truck and kick them the hell out of there, arrest them if they won't go, harm them if possible. That was his clean up the city routine. So when they show pictures of how Ken Sim has cleaned up the downtown east side, just bear in mind that there's a huge human tragedy attached to that that shouldn't have happened that way, never should have happened that way, and he might just get away with it because the government these days has the media in their pockets, and the media tells the story the government wants them to, like as if we're living in some communist country or something. We do not have an independent media here in Canada anymore that holds the politicians' feet to the fire at all. So they get away with all of this stuff. And if you believe what you're reading in the mainstream media, if you just think Ken Sim did a good job of getting Kents off the street, then you're very, very misinformed and you're a bit of a fool. Because the mainstream media cannot be trusted with the stories that they're telling, and it's the stories that they're not telling. They're not allowed to tell them in this dictatorial country that we are living in. So nobody knows how bad it was except those people that suffered and those of us that were close enough to actually see what was going on. But the cops shoot everybody away. Cops standing around with all these government workers throwing everybody's stuff into garbage trucks and kicking them the hell out. And the cops are right there to make sure, hey, no videotaping, don't be loitering here, move on, you know, intimidation, you know, Oh man, very, very, very sad to see. So, BC Bud Day will be a protest against this mayor, and that is its sole purpose. On a side note, we're also going to be, of course, protesting the Cannabis Act and the federal policies that are resulting in the lack of access to people for medical purposes or daily users or people that just can't afford the ridiculous, you know, prohibition-type prices that are being charged in the government stores. So we'll be protesting all of that. But primarily, it'll be against the mayor. And it's going to happen on the Saturday of the weekend, and on the Sunday of the weekend, and on the Monday of the weekend. The location will start out to be Thornton Park. And we'll just see what response the mayor has to us protesting him. And if we have to, we'll go to Plan B, and then Plan C, and we'll keep changing, and we'll keep adapting, and we'll keep shifting. And they won't be able to stop us. In fact, all they're going to do by trying to stop us is build more and more actual, some sort of media attention, be it social or mainstream. We'll see. But that's our plan. That's what we're going to do. The BC Bud Day protest is on. It will happen to begin with at Thornton Park. And we'll just see what kind of a response that we get. So come on down. Support what we're doing. Be there just to be there. Be there and smoke some weed with some good people.
Yep.
Be there and find some good weed. Find some great edibles. Find all sorts of things. These protests and rallies that we put on are amazing networking events, amazing educational events, amazing party events, amazing protest events. Come and help us do all of that. We need all the people there that we can get. The more the better. The reason they succeeded on Cannabis Day at kicking us out of the park. They didn't stop Cannabis Day. We blatantly, right in front of them, with all those dozens of heavily armed, intimidating police officers, continued to have our Cannabis Day, but there was very few sales that went on, because that's what they won that day, was to stop almost all of the sales of cannabis that would have happened there, helping people that would come from miles around to get access. They stopped that day. We're going to not let them stop that again, or at least not permanently. A battle or war is a bunch of separate battles, and we'll just move on to the next one. Yeah. And we are righteous in our pursuits, and they are very much not righteous in their pursuits. This is a mayor who went viral shortly after he did what he did on Cannabis Day for shotgunning beer on stage during a family event. The only thing he didn't do was break the can on his forehead and punch the guy next to him. But he might have driven home that night. We're going to look into that. In any case, he thought it was all right to promote irresponsible alcohol use at a family event while having just spent tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars to fence off a park and bring in a huge presence of police officers. There was literally around 50 police officers at the park at a given time. On a bike squad, standing at positions all around that huge park to make sure nobody breached the fence. 15 or 20 cops right there, wherever the tents were set up, standing in front of the stage, videotaping everything that we did. All of that expense of police officers.
Even a drone in the air.
Was there a drone in the air?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all.
Oh yeah, they had a drone on us for sure. Yeah.
So, because of all that, there was no fireworks. We were the only major city in Canada to not have fireworks on Canada Day because they didn't have it in their budget, because they had decided that the budget needed to be spent on keeping the Cannabis Day protest from happening after 30 years of having successful events where no one was harmed. We always cleaned up our mess. Did you see the mess that was left from the fireworks?
Always is.
It always is.
Always is.
But this year was almost even a little bit. You were there.
I was there. Yeah,
pictures.
but we always pick up.
The pictures the next morning at 5 a.m. or they'd been cleaning up since 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, what a mess.
Yeah. Pizza boxes and beer cans and all kinds of stuff.
Lots of people don't care.
But that's again, there's always going to be people who will clean up like us, and there will be people who won't clean up, right?
And the taxpayers can pay for it.
Well, yeah, it's part of their budget, I think, because we've been doing the fireworks a lot of times, and there's always something.
For sure.
To clean up, right?
You're going to have to clean up. The taxpayers will pay for it. Then I guess you may as well just add your pizza box to the pile.
They have big garbage cans there for you and everything.
Yeah.
You just have to carry your stuff to the closest garbage can and dump it in. Wow.
We've had bigger crowds than that.
Yeah.
For 420 at Sunset Beach.
Yeah.
And we cleaned up our own mess.
Yeah.
Every time. That was always the point that we made. I remember David in the early days also with me, but not later because I'm old now.
Yeah.
But
he's old too.
Work until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Making sure everything was clean and there was nothing that they could complain about, and they would still complain.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I'm sure probably Honda maybe puts in for some of the money for the cleanup crew in the city somehow.
Could be true,
right? Because they know that this is expected, that there
are
be
sponsors.
People. Yeah, so there's probably not costing the taxpayers too much money. There's probably
you might be right.
There might be some.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, because we did it because we didn't have sponsors like that.
I mean, we don't know that that's true.
No.
It could be that Honda simply provides the barge and pays for the fireworks and the crews to come in and do all of that. We don't know that they're helping with the cleanup, but I appreciate that that's a possibility.
It's a possibility. Yeah. We don't know, right?
I would allow that.
No, we have to do the freedom of information.
In the court of Neil Magnuson, I would allow that.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. So BC Bud Day's coming up. We got pot fights. We talked a little bit about that.
Yep.
September 1st. I'll have more information for you as we move forward on what that's about. Apparently, I'm going to be there, but I'm not in the loop.
I'm there too.
But I'm not in the loop.
I'll keep in.
Nobody's telling me nothing about it.
I'm a judge. I've already advertised for her, so I
just keep that old guy in the dark, and then we can, beat him up when he gets there. So
there's, I believe there's an on-the-spot cannabis cup that day too, so that you can be.
Yeah, the 420 cup.
Yeah, no, it was the 41 live or 42 live.
420 live?
Something like that. Something live, yes.
Something
we
live.
just watched the video.
I
I
don't-
can't remember.
Yeah, we just had the 420 session. What do you want from me?
But yeah, that day you get your kit and you judge and
I get a kit?
I don't know. I don't know. You're
Well, if she really wants to make up, then
yeah, you want a kit? Yeah. All right, I'll put the feeler out there.
I don't want to be continually in the dark about what's going on and then be having to find out through the media that I'm supposed to write a song now and perform it, I'm sure.
Oh,
Man, I'm not Snoop Dogg.
No, thank you to Tony. We may have something there.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah,
I'll have a look at that. We'll see.
When I send it to him. I've got to copy and paste
When
it.
I find time.
Yeah.
So, Big Tobacco is buying
Israeli.
is an Israeli cannabis company.
Yeah. It's a good joint. Isn't that one of those mixed ones that you haven't been able to get halfway through? Well, I'll help you with the other half. How's that? All right?
Please do. 199 shows later, we're looking an awful lot like the contest.
Yeah.
You remember the contest? Contest, where people used to send in weed to cannabis culture, and they would have the luminaries test it in the various methods of doing that.
We should still do
and
that.
the great part about the contest was always that, once they started inhaling those magical vapors of whatever was sent into them, the conversation would soar,
We should
the
do that
memories
with
would
government
fail.
weed and
I'm not
gray market.
smoking no government weed.
Well, I'm sure we could find people. We'll use people who didn't smoke that
I won't
day,
promote it. I won't
and we'll
promote
get
it.
a true.
Hey, I did see that there's something about the legal side of things going on with the pot fights.
Oh,
That there's a licensed producer involved in some way.
Oh.
That they're trying to do things legal.
yeah.
That if you're going to enter the contest, the 420 Live, whatever it is, you can send it to them in the mail, but you should only send 30 grams at a time because that's what's legal.
Yeah. Well,
So I don't know about all that, I'm not a fan of the legal system yet. I want to have the legal system include low barrier access to remove and that's not just for the consumers, but also for the producers of cannabis. It should be easy to be able to bring cannabis to the marketplace. And it should be easy to access cannabis, and the government really has very little role to play in any of that, any more than they would in coffee or let's say cigarettes. In cigarettes, it has to be packaged in a way with warnings on it. If you have to put a warning on the edibles and the concentrates to go slow, start,
go low, go slow.
start low, go slow.
Yeah.
Then so be it, and that's fine, and that should be there, 100%. But all the rest of the involvement by government, these restrictions and regulations that are boosting the price up to beyond the ability of most people to be able to afford it if they're daily users, that's all got to stop. And one day I hope that we get there. I know that we will. Maybe it'll be with the court case that's coming up for us. Maybe we can accomplish that there. We'll see. I think it's going to be a long time.
I wonder how Sarah Sunday got the karma judges kits in the Ontario government cannabis stores. You can buy a judge's kit from an Ontario government cannabis store.
For Sarah's cup?
For Karma Cup, yes.
So there's no illegal cannabis in her cup then?
I don't know.
There wouldn't. There couldn't be.
I don't know how
sure.
she. Yeah, I don't know. Hey,
So she's now gone over to the other side, and her cup is about legal producers.
I know they're available to us still too.
Well, we'll have to find out.
Yeah, we'll have to find that out.
Yeah.
Tony did a ChatGPT thing again.
Oh, yeah.
And the question was, what is the legality of selling cannabis in retail outlets in Canada?
Oh.
Do you want to read it?
No.
You don't want to read it?
I'll read it later.
It says, as of my last update. Not too bad.
Okay, I'll read it.
All right, okay. So
The answer from our good buddy Chat says, as of the last update in September 2021, cannabis is legal for recreational use in Canada. The Cannabis Act, which came into effect on October 17th, 2018, legalized the possession, consumption, cultivation of cannabis for adults 18 years or older in Canada. This includes both dried cannabis and cannabis oil. What it doesn't say is only for people with licenses.
there you go.
Licensed retail outlets, known as cannabis dispensaries or cannabis stores, are allowed to sell cannabis products to individuals of legal age. These retail outlets must obtain the necessary licenses and permits from the provincial or territorial authorities to operate legally. It's important to note that cannabis regulations and laws can vary between provinces and territories in Canada and communities, for that matter.
Sorry, somebody commented.
Oh, is that what
Some
happened?
regions.
Some regions may have additional restrictions or requirements. Okay, so we did good. Stop commenting, people. Therefore, it's essential to check the specific regulations and laws in the province or territory where the retail outlet is located. Please keep in mind that cannabis laws are subject to somebody else posting. More people posted because I said don't post. Please keep in mind that cannabis laws are subject to change, and it's advisable to verify the current regulations with up-to-date sources or legal authorities to ensure compliance with the latest guidelines. The authorities don't have a clue. You ask the cops what the laws are to do with cannabis, they don't know. They really don't. That's accurate, and it's criminal, and it's wrong, for sure, that the government thinks that they have to have such tight controls on that. I mean, what chat didn't bother to mention was what these penalties are for people. That there's still people going to jail. There's still people having their homes invaded. There's still people losing their properties and their livelihoods and suffering financial ruin and stigmatization, and all the rest of it is still all part of this so-called legalization right here and now. But one of the things about this Cannabis Act is that it has stated goals. It states right at the beginning that the goals of the Cannabis Act are to keep people using a regulated supply and to diminish criminal activity. And then it goes on to talk about barriers and restrictions to access that force most people into the unregulated marketplace.
Yeah. I can't buy
it is its own biggest barrier to achieving its own goals.
Yeah.
And not only is it now driving a whole bunch of people into remaining in the unregulated marketplace, but for those people that are looking for the high-dose edibles that are now not available in all the dispensaries that were here before so-called legalization, those people have a great deal of trouble dealing with the issues that they're dealing with if they can't find cannabis edibles. So they go to the harder drugs, because that's what cannabis edibles really mimic, is the ability of those harder drugs to kill pain and depression and to be able to deal with stuff. So we're driving a whole bunch of the really poor, the most disadvantaged, the most vulnerable of us Canadians are not only not able to access through the legal system of recreational cannabis, but they're now going to the harder drugs. And we're witnessing that all across Canada. This epidemic of opioid addiction, overdose, and death is all driven by the lack of access to proper cannabis edibles. So the Cannabis Act is guaranteeing that a large percentage of people, and especially the most vulnerable, are only able to access cannabis through unregulated sources, and that many of them are having to then opt for the hard drugs that are illegal and unregulated in our country here, although in Vancouver and British Columbia, there are some regulations about being able to have some of those hard drugs on you.
But they don't need a prescription or a letter from the doctor to use it.
No,
but
not like for cannabis.
If you want to give a high-dose edible, you have to.
Apparently.
It's stupid. It's so stupid.
Corrupt and
criminal.
criminal.
I can use fentanyl, heroin, speed, cocaine, PCP, and I carry 2.5 grams on me, but if I want a high-dose edible, I got to have a note from my doctor.
Incredible.
It's fucked up.
Incredible.
It's fucked up.
So the Cannabis Act is the goal. What it's actually achieving is the exact opposite of what its stated goals are. The goal to keep people using a regulated supply is absolutely destroyed by the lack of proper access to the regulated supply. The goal of keeping criminal activity, diminished, they're increasing criminal activity. They're increasing more people selling hard drugs to the people that would otherwise be using high-dose edibles. Oh my God. And yet they can't get that.
Yeah.
So there are some serious problems. I wonder if ChatGPT wants to see my letter. Is it interested in what I have to say?
I don't know. You'd have to read it to it. And
how do you are you able to do that?
You have to form it in a question. That's what it is. You ask
so
ChatGPT
I will put that whole letter that I wrote to Health Canada, and then I'll say, what do you think of this letter?
Yeah. There you go. Something like that. You've got to form it as a question. I believe for ChatGPT.
Well, maybe I can form it as a really long question.
Yeah. Mary J saying, yes, he's given us mad respect too for you and for me. Thanks, Mary J.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure we deserve it, sir.
Yeah, sir
Wells.
Magnuson. We're knighted. Rick Walker, thank you very much.
You can check that out. It's in the archives, I'm sure.
On YouTube,
On the Maverick
Rumble.
Show.
Yeah.
And we got knighted. We got
and it doesn't happen very suddenly.
And it's way more valuable than being knighted by that corrupt queen.
Yes, of course.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I'd accept a knighthood from the queen. I probably wouldn't.
Tony says when you do
that.
there's
not a queen now. There's a king. I'm sorry.
Tony says when you do that, to send it to him. What ChatGPT says about your letter.
Well, we'll probably talk about it on the show. I would imagine we'd have something to say about whatever
You'll have to
ChatGPT.
download the app and stuff.
I will say, hey, ChatGPT, could you say no to this request based on this letter?
I wonder what ChatGPT says about the grey market.
How the hell can Health Canada say no to that letter that I wrote? I mean, my mind continues to boggle. I read it a couple of times on the show.
Idiots. They don't know anything. They just follow. Oh, we don't have to do this because this rule says that.
Well, no, he said they didn't send enough details.
Yeah, you said
just didn't send enough details.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That with enough details, I guess they would have approved my application. I just needed to put those other details in there.
What details do you want us to do?
Well, it's hard to have the details about how we could access the current regulated supply because so far they won't allow that to happen.
Yeah.
So for me to give details, I'd be like describing the crime I'm about to commit or something, I think that they can give me some out the back door rather than destroy it with cat litter.
Mm-hmm.
So their letter to me lacked a whole lot of detail. In fact, there was nothing in that letter that stated what their actual motivations were. It was really vague. They just said, you didn't give us enough details as to how your supply could become regulated.
Yeah.
They didn't give me any details about why it is that it needs to be regulated.
Yeah.
We've demonstrated for 6.5 years that the unregulated supply we've been using is very effective during a public health crisis, rescuing people from addiction that would otherwise be facing overdose and death.
But Health Canada is saying that if there's some rule in their book that says that you can't do that, then we're not even going to pay attention to you. We're not going to send somebody down there because this rule says I don't have to do this.
But this is the Department of Special Licenses and Exemptions.
Yeah.
So this is the department that is supposed to be able to overrule those rules in special circumstances.
I don't know of anything that they've ever
I wonder what they've ever licensed.
What is their role? What is their job description?
Well, who is it that's got a special exemption at this point, and what do they have it for?
Yeah, who gets these?
So they didn't give one to that Indigenous dispensary that's operating in Ontario, that's exercising their right to their own Indigenous control over the plant. So they're not accessing through regulated supply, and they're doing their own thing. And, I was reading that, I found it, and I was reading, and I was thinking, I got to send this to Jack, because Jack Lloyd is my lawyer.
Yeah.
And, this could be important to our case here, coming up in October. And so then I read on to find that Jack Lloyd is their lawyer. Mm-hmm. And so I was having a meeting with Jack the following day, and I brought that up with Jack, and I said, hey, I was going to send you this thing about this Indigenous dispensary, but you're already their lawyer. So he fills me in. He says, back in 2017, the Supreme Court ruled that the Indigenous communities of Canada did not have a right to control gambling. It had to all go through the gambling boards.
Yeah.
That even though there was game playing amongst Indigenous people for profits or whatever, that didn't mean that they had an inherent right to be able to control gambling on their territories and off their territories. The Supreme Court ruled against them in that and lumped cannabis into that. So Jack thought, this isn't right.
Yeah.
So he wrote a paper describing how there's a huge difference between Indigenous rights to cannabis use, which was part of their cultures for hundreds of years here before the white man came, and that they're not the same at all. That gambling, essentially, the house wins and people's lives are ruined, and that goes on all the time. It's highly addictive and destroys people because they spend money they don't have to spend thinking that they're going to get a payout that they never get, and without that payout, all kinds of bad things have happened to all kinds of people. Gambling is not something that should be encouraged. You can't prohibit it, but it should come with all kinds of warnings, and not a warning that says, play within your limits or whatever. Because all they're doing is telling you to play. There's a psychology behind these commercials about know your limit, play within it. They're telling you to play, and people don't know what their limits are until they find out the hard way that the house always wins in the end. So gambling is not cannabis. Cannabis is medicine. It was always used as medicine. It was used as ceremonial, religious for reasons. And, there's these differences are vast. Well, his paper sat pretty much unnoticed for quite a while.
Yeah.
But now this indigenous dispensary has realized what he wrote, and they're using that as their defense. And so...
I may be wrong, but I believe in Oka, Quebec, that they have a whole street of illegal cannabis stores.
There are a number of them. They are subject to enforcement.
Rita mentioned about it that it is awesome to go down that street and you have so many different choices. So
yeah, and they are flexing their muscles, and well, they should.
Yeah.
And this corrupt government of pseudo authorities has no business in that business, both for them and for us as well.
Yeah.
So good on them. Hell yeah, happy to see all of that.
And I don't think it should be labeled as recreational and medical, because the people that are using recreation are just on the weekend. So why can't they be social, like social drinkers? Like social users. Because you smoke cannabis, you have an endocannabinoid system. It's doing something for you. You eat an edible, you have an endocannabinoid system. It's doing something for your body. So it has a medical. There's no matter what they say, it has a medical use for you.
Nobody's going into the government stores and paying the ridiculous prices that are there for a plant that grows easily without having an intent.
Yeah.
They intend to feel better.
Yeah.
They think they're going to have a better time.
Old people don't want the side effects from pills.
I mean,
that's what they're saying.
But I'm going with you on the recreational side of things. If it's just for recreational, nobody's going in there without the idea that this recreational product that they're spending a lot of money for is going to elevate their mood, is going to help them sleep, is going to provide them with a better experience than these other recreational substances out there.
Yeah.
So, if that's not medical...
I know, that's what I'm saying. But the government refused to call it. Even ChatGPT said it's recreational. It didn't say cannabis is recreational and medical. Maybe we should ask ChatGPT.
What's the difference between medical and recreational cannabis?
Yes,
what's the difference, GP? Somebody ask the question, please.
Tony, are you still there?
We'll see what he says.
He's been putting.
I guess it's not a he, eh?
I don't know.
Let's see what they. We gotta use they.
Let's see what they say. Yeah. He's been putting some other stuff up here too, but you said you didn't want to do a lot of reading, so other people can. There's like 10 different things here.
I think Tony needs to send me stuff before the show.
Yeah, that would be great.
And then I can get up to speed on it, and then I won't just be reading verbatim something that I don't know what I'm reading.
There we go. I
wish I had a team of people. I mean, I know you're a team, but...
you could send it to me too, Tony.
We'd have a much better show if I had a team of people.
Profile, so...
We could have editors that do like Russell Brand's show and other things where it's things all put together so you don't even realize that there was a gap there, and he might have said it to other things and then changed it and stuff. They do a really, really professional job of putting those shows together. Whereas we're just live streaming real life here, and I'm no professional host. Although I guess after 4 years, nobody's paid me yet, so I'm still an amateur. But in any case. Maybe one day the show will be even better than it is. We'll have all that stuff going on. I'll have a team of researchers, and we'll have statistics going on.
Wow.
And I can, maybe have a scroll or something. Once I...
you like the part where he's reading from a monitor or something like that.
Something like that, maybe, Who knows how these things might work in the end. But,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so now... there are illegal stores. There's still a couple here in Vancouver as well. Dana Larson still seems to manage to somehow operate his dispensaries, although he's been in queue for a provincial license for a very long time. Maybe I shouldn't jinx him, eh?
No.
But
he was just at BC Bud Day selling weed, so you're not really jinxing them. So.
Well, and he talked about it too. The fact that at BC Bud Day, he talked about how they were still open as an illegal dispensary after all this time, and he said it's because they have very good lawyers.
Yeah.
You know.
You mean Cannabis Day? It was Cannabis Day.
Day.
So it would be nice if we could get Dana to come and join us for the 3 days of BC Bud Day.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
Well, I mean,
I'm sure he would.
Have a booth.
Have a booth, maybe.
Yeah, right.
I'll talk to Cindy about that. Maybe they want to do it. They're so busy. They got 3 stores now. You know, he's on the psychedelic front with mushrooms, mushroom dispensaries, and the Coca Cafe.
Yeah.
And
so you
doing
bring
really good
mushrooms
things. Very, very busy. But I'm sure they'll put an appearance at BC Bud Days.
Bud Days. Yeah.
Coming up here for sure. But there's still some illegal dispensaries that are operating. Cannabis culture is still fighting hard against a government that's willing to spend a lot of tax dollars to try to shut them down from having a social lounge where people can go and consume cannabis together, which has been going on forever at Cannabis Culture. And
is Amsterdam Cafe getting the same attention?
I don't know. I haven't asked that question.
Yeah.
You see, I need a team of researchers to find this stuff out before I open my mouth.
Yeah, because they're right beside each other, right? I would assume that they would.
In fact, the government has gone so far. Farnworth and the evil CSU has gone so far as to threaten jail time for the landlord.
Oh, really?
Of the building that
I thought they owned that building.
No.
They don't own the building?
Not own that building, no.
Oh, wow.
So, they are very corrupt and cruel, and they don't think that people should be able to sit around and consume cannabis together. Even though you're allowed to go to all kinds of government-sponsored bars and drink alcohol together.
And even though the government has said that the strata people and landlords can tell you can't smoke cannabis in their place and you have to go off their property.
Yeah.
So now
they don't tell you can't drink.
Now in the winter time it's minus 10 or 15. We're
still going to have people standing out in the cold, getting colds, getting sick.
It's stupid. Like we need places to be able to do it because they made those laws, right? Okay, so if we can't smoke in our rental properties, then we need a place to do this, right? So.
Can you imagine a landlord deciding to tell somebody that they can't consume alcohol in their space?
Well, there are some places that when you read ads, there's no drugs or alcohol.
Those are like government-sponsored buildings. That's where that's going on. Or they're privately
basement suites and stuff like that. There were people that were saying no drugs or alcohol.
No drugs or alcohol.
Yeah.
For trying to rent a space.
Yeah, to rent a 1-bedroom basement suite or a 2-bedroom. There's some rules there. Yes. Yeah.
So you know what's going on.
Yeah.
The availability of rental outlets is just zero.
Yeah.
It is so hard to rent a place. Like holy crap! Such competition for anything that you want to rent here. If you're evicted, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. I got friends that are in the same situation right now.
And everything too.
So now the landlords, they got carte blanche. It's all about supply and demand.
Yeah.
What they have is in demand, so they can make whatever rules they want.
Yeah.
That's what's going on with that.
So
I guess I'm wrong about that. There are places where you can't have alcohol.
A lot of places do credit checks on you now. You've got to have a job. Lots of
It's very competitive for everything that comes available. It is very competitive here, and more people coming all the time. I don't know where they're all ending up, but anyhow, so that's going on.
Yeah.
And property taxes through the roof.
Yep.
Because they have to pay for fences around parks and policemen and all that kind of stuff. And enforcing this Cannabis Act, that is not cheap, folks. There's been numerous court cases revolving around what's going on with the cannabis legalization. In the last how long it's been, 5 years now. Coming up in October, it'll be 5 years of so-called legalization. And during that time, the government has spent just a shit ton of money on enforcing the Cannabis Act. You look back on the recent court cases that have happened. The Howell case. You look at the Martin. Rest in peace, Jerry. Rest in peace. That case. Warnicki and Siemens. I'm going to slate you guys. What did the government spend on those cases? What did the government spend on all these cases that are going on? What are they spending on our case right now? We're estimating it might be $1 million that they're going to end up spending on what's going on with their trying to stop me from providing an option for people instead of hard drugs here on the downtown east side. They're willing to go to great lengths to do that at taxpayers' expense. It's not money out of their pocket. They just have what seems to be an unlimited supply of money to be able to do whatever their whims are. And their whims are that they're going to do their best to stamp out anything that's going to compete with the Trudeau cartel's monopoly on cannabis sale and production in Canada. And so that cost to taxpayers is phenomenal. Like, phenomenal. And yet that's, sort of lost in the whole thing as well. Nobody really thinks about that.
No.
Right? And yet that's what's going on as well. The government is a very crafty organization.
Yeah, oh yeah.
These groups that have been, taking power in Canada and other countries around the world are really quite smart about the way they've learned to do things. Like, there's a bunch of people losing money on the whole legalization of cannabis. I see Alifa is now filing for protection.
Yeah.
Even though they say
you should reach out to them and ask them for their cannabis that they're not going to be selling.
Are they over there?
No, the name.
This is a map here.
But yes, see if you can get their cannabis for your program since they're going to be going belly up. What are they going to do with all that stuff that they got there?
Yeah,
right?
They have to destroy it. Are they allowed to try to sell it?
I don't know. Right?
I mean, it wouldn't matter because a lot of these places have got cannabis they can't sell because. Once the cannabis that they grow hits the marketplace, if it's not up to standards, if it doesn't get the hype that the other strains get, a lot of strains are left in the wake there of the ones that are now being put into the stores, and that's just wasted cannabis that has to then be destroyed. Apparently,
yes, apparently it has to be destroyed.
Even though it's regulated cannabis, it has to be destroyed.
Yeah.
When when there's places like us that are just trying to get regulated cannabis out to the people.
And Surrey and Newton and on the East Coast, there's lots of weed out there that we could be helping.
You're talking about the other CSP chapters. Great work being done by those people out there.
But sure. I'm just saying that the stuff that they're not able to sell could help all these people.
They say that legal rec sales has edged up in Canada to $415 million.
Oh, yes. In the month of May.
Meanwhile, Alifia is going bankrupt.
And Philip Morrison is taking over Israeli.
You won't find that on there. I didn't write that on there. But that is what's going on. So
they're buying a company.
Wow. And so if you thought that the whole fight for proper legalization ended with Trudeau 5 years ago legalizing cannabis, I hate to inform you, or I have to inform you, that you were wrong about that, and you need to get back into the movement because this is really bad.
Freddie Pritchard was right.
Yeah, Freddie Pritchard was right, although he wasn't completely right because our argument between the two of us was always about whether or not there would be the low barrier access that we're still fighting for.
Yeah.
If Freddie was right, I wouldn't still be doing the CSP or anything else like that.
Yeah.
And there wouldn't be the Cannabis Culture Lounge still operating. There wouldn't be the Budway that's up there on Knight Street, and there's a few others around the city, the medicinal cannabis dispensary. All these places are still here, Freddie. As I said, they would not be able to make us all go away, and I'm standing on that. We will see.
We'll see.
We will see. It ain't over yet.
5 years coming
5 years in.
Yeah.
Freddie and I started this argument 6 years ago.
But he's
when we operated UCAN together, which was a great idea of putting activists together instead of all just meeting on Facebook. But for those in the area to come and get together, and we had some really good meetings there. But many of our meetings got kind of derailed by Freddie and I arguing about what was going to happen. And he was pointing out that if you read the Liberal platform on legalization, it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. It was tightly restricted. Let's save the children. Let's continue the stigmatization and high prices and over-regulation and all the rest of that. And he was certainly right about what the government intentions are. Boy, oh boy, absolutely. And I didn't think that they were at the time. I thought, they just had to write that in there.
We were just more excited that they said legalize.
Yeah, I had talked to Trudeau. I'd actually gone to a couple of his campaign stops, and I'd spoken with him, and I'd listened to what he had to say, that the medical users would have nothing to worry about.
Of course.
That he was going to put all of the unregulated cannabis sales out of business because the government cannabis would be way better and way cheaper. Yeah. And why would you go to the guy in the basement suite when you can walk into a real store and they can stand behind their product and it's going to be way better and way cheaper than anybody's going to have out there? And he was such a bullshitter.
Well, because he can't say, well, we're not going to do anything for the medical people because then that'll flick us in an uproar and it won't work, right? So, he's just going to tell you the good stuff. Well, of course we're going to help
them.
Did you just
learn this about politicians?
No.
I didn't learn it well enough myself either, because I kind of believed what he was saying.
Yeah.
And, he lied right to my face and to the Canadian public, and now has brought in a system that maintains all of those expensive mechanisms of prohibition, because there's still illegal cannabis and there's legal cannabis.
Yeah.
And the illegal cannabis is still bringing people even harsher fines and penalties than before so-called legalization. Most of the people,
$6.5 million is one of the fines.
one fine for just the Cannabis Buyers Club, $6.5 million. So, the enforcement is up, the amount of tax dollars is up, the amount of activity in the unregulated marketplace is still where it always was, I think, Now, the regulated marketplace has new customers for the most part. I know there's some, old-time cannabis users that are using the government stores.
Yeah.
They really don't have much other option, is what they tell me, in small towns and what have you.
Yeah.
And many of them, I guess, don't get it. But the underground, unregulated marketplace of $7 to $9 billion estimated value in British Columbia is still thriving as always. All of my friends, almost everybody I know, are using the unregulated market. So they're getting a different type of customer there. And they've still maintained that all of these poor people are criminals, and using the criminal law against people because of a plant that they sell themselves.
Yeah.
Just how
but
upside down
can
it get?
benefits for you.
You can only get wrecked on it. You can only get wrecked on government weed. But whether you like it or not, you're getting health benefits off the non-government weed, and if you really want to, you can get wrecked on the non-government weed too. And lots of people are. Speaking of which, September 1st, the contest there.
Yep.
I hear that the people that are going to be the judges are going to have to judge 42 strains in like 3 hours.
Oh, so it's 42 live then, probably.
42 live.
Yeah. So because it'll be a live judge contest.
I think it's 42 live.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what I heard.
I don't know if we have to do all 42, do we?
That's what I heard today on there.
Oh.
She said they'll have about 3 hours to test all those strains and decide which ones are the best.
Okay. Yeah.
Give me a break.
I don't think we're going to be sitting at a table.
If any of them are any good at all, you're not going to be able to test 42 strains in 3 hours.
No.
That doesn't work. You can't do that.
I always look for the one that got me higher than the last one.
I mean, Lum figured that out in Saskatoon there, where he had like 57 different strains of weed one year or something like that. Most of the cannabis cups would have like a dozen or so, and you'd get together over a 3-day weekend, and you'd get to try all these strains. And then the Kush cup had 20 something, and then Jeff comes along and he's got 57 strains of weed. Well, you know what happened at the end of that? Greg Williams, also brother, we miss you so much. He had still such amount of weed that he hadn't managed to test. How do you test 57 strains? Not properly. No. I mean, there's only maybe 16 to 20 hours in a day that you can be smoking weed. You need some time in between strains to really test them.
You have to think out of the box, Neil. You invite your friends.
No, what Greg did was...
I invite my friends.
He put it all together in a pile, and mixed it all together, and smoked a great big joint of it, and said, "There you go."
No, I usually.
But you're right.
Bring your friends because they can test with the ones that you're not, right?
Yeah, you only need one judge's kid amongst about a dozen people.
Who's going to say, "Hey, man, you want to come and do some tests and some cannabis? So if it's free, right? Okay, man, I'm in."
You remind me of another thing Jeff said at his speech at Cannabis Day there, looking right at the police officers. He said, "Did you get any complaints today? Or was there somebody complained that they were able to buy marijuana? Is that the problem? Is that why you're standing there? You got some public complaints from people that were unhappy that they were able to come and buy marijuana?"
The CSU.
Yeah, the CSU. Isn't that a conflict of interest if you're complaining it's like starting a fire when you're a fireman because you want to have something to put out. And boy, that is what they're doing. And it is just disgusting, the amount of money that, we say it's being wasted.
Yeah.
But what's really happening is all of these millions and millions of dollars that are being made on all different ends of it. I talked about, I didn't finish talking about how the governments are so smart about how they operate these things. Because, yes, Alifa's going tits up, and lots of other companies are losing money all over the place. But the government, they're not losing nothing. They got their taxes to cover all of their expenses plus a whole lot more. And what are they doing with all that money? I'd like to know. But spending millions of it to solve the opioid addiction problem. That's what they're doing.
Sure,
so they're getting all the millions of dollars from the cannabis side of things so that they can spend it on solving the opioid crisis. And that was my point. Where does all this money go? It goes to government insiders, people that have managed to get these contracts. Usually it's relatives or in-laws or whatever. It's still the buddy system in Canada, like it is in so many other countries. Those are the people that get the sweet deals. When the government says they're spending millions of dollars on the opioid crisis, you know that that's being parceled up amongst a whole bunch of people that have lobbied the government, that are friends of the government, and that's where that money is wasted. Those people get it. They're able to live in fancy houses and live great lives, while all these people suffer, while so many people in the cannabis community suffer from their arrests and their being exploited by the system, by the stigmatization that's going on, by the job loss, by the inability to travel, all the economic hits that the cannabis community takes because of this stuff. None of that affects the governments at all. They don't give a shit. Them and all their friends are living off of it, living high on the hog off of it, and we're all suffering and hurting because of it, and we all think life is expensive and the economy sucks, and they don't give a shit. They're just riding high above all of that. It's nothing to them. If it's not taxpayer money that they're spending on whatever it is the hell that they want, they got so much of their own money and so much coming in later for all the favors they're doing for people. Oh my God, what a corrupt flipping world we're living in. This government needs to be changed. Our system needs to be changed. We need to have limited, accountable, transparent public servants that recognize their main number one job is to stop corruption, to keep us from being exploited, to represent and protect the individual rights and freedom of every single citizen that is paying them to be our servants and our protectors. And this is so not what we've got going on here in Canada. We have to be afraid of the police. We have to not trust our government. We have to understand that politicians lie all the time, and that they don't care about us. They care about exploiting us and getting the money and the energy that they get for their friends and loved ones while we all suffer. So time to reset dumbocracy in Canada. Let's show the world. Let's rise up as people and make this happen, because we need to have public servants that we can trust. We need to have a system that doesn't criminalize poor people and make it a crime to have a bloody plant that you might want to use to help you feel better. So if you think this is okay and we're all, doing just fine here in a free country and we got it good, then what you don't understand is that we are like frogs in a big barrel where they're turning up the heat and the water is now boiling all around us, and none of us know, or only a few of us know. Only a few of us jump out if we can, because the rest have just gotten used to it. It's what we were born into. It's just the way that it is. These people are too powerful. We can't do anything about it. And all the other reasons that we just continue to try to make life in boiling water work for us, when we could be living in paradise and have a nice lukewarm pond to play in and live in. And it all should be there for us because the world is full of abundance. It's all there to be had if we want it. But these rich bastards, these greedy pigs, have taken so much of it for themselves. Billions of dollars are owned by single families and single individuals. Billions! While all of us are suffering with a tough economy, wondering how we're going to feed our families. And all because they got to prop up all their billionaire friends and all their rich lifestyle and stick it to us and stick it to the poor people and do all that they can to hurt people that aren't part of their group. So, when are we going to learn, folks? When are we going to get off our asses and do something about this stuff? When are we actually going to realize that we're born here with an opportunity and a responsibility? And we need to take that opportunity, we need to exercise that responsibility and make this world better than we found it. And right now there's so much to do. Get on a campaign, get on something. Don't sit around and just enjoy Oprah or whatever else we're doing with our time. The latest movies coming out. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to movies. Not saying you shouldn't have downtime and keep a balance going on. But part of your life needs to be fighting the fight against the massive corruption and exploitation of us and our brothers and sisters, and how bad that actually represents itself at the extremes, where so many of our family members have been hurt by all of these policies and end up in this neighborhood. And I'm pointing to the outside, to the downtown east side, where we're going to go shortly and see what it is that we're trying to do about it here. But there are downtown east sides all across Canada, all across North America, all fuel for people that are monetizing it to make a bunch of money off of it, to make political points off of it, while these actual family members of ours who just get caught in the whole web of poverty, we're all only a couple paychecks usually away from, like I said, some people are having trouble figuring out where their next meal is coming from. Well, if they decide to have that meal and not pay their rent, now they're out here on the streets, and now they're prey for all the things that happen to people out here, and now they're prey for government organizations and government-funded organizations that are going to take advantage of their poverty and their ill will, or what's going on with them, to make money off of them and to do what they can to maintain a number of them people in that system so they can continue to rake in the money for it. So
it's sad that there's no money in curing people of opioid addictions in a
there's
week
not none
with edibles. High-dose edibles, because that's what you've proven.
Yeah, with high-dose edibles.
You could change a lot of people's lives if you're allowed to do that.
I believe it's coming.
But there's no money in it for the government, because they won't be going into treatment centers. They won't be getting pills to be off their drugs and stuff, like pharmaceutical stuff. So,
unfortunately, Glenn, you're right and you're wrong. You're right, but they're going to figure out a way to monetize it, and they're probably going to allow it, but it's going to be at great expense. And once again, the poor people and the people that really need protection the most won't get it.
So you're thinking treatment
what it
centers.
takes is citizens' initiatives.
Yeah.
That's what it takes. And I believe there will be citizens' initiatives. There already are some underway. There are probably some that exist that I'm not aware of, where people are being put up and housed for the period of time they need to recover, and they're using high-dose edibles.
Oh, really?
They're definitely in the works and in the plans. I'm not going to say who and where at this point because there's still negotiations to be done with government locally on that. But
that's good then.
That's what you're 100% right. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And the government is blocking it and not allowing it because they're not quite set up to be able to make the money off of it that they need to make. Yeah. And they still don't want to admit that cannabis has medicinal value for all the repercussions that could come back on them for having 100 years of taking taxpayer money and using it to prevent those taxpayers from accessing what never should have been criminalized in the first place. And they know it, and they don't want to admit it. If cannabis has medical value, if people are using it to help their aching back, or to get a better night's sleep, or for whatever else they need to use it to help them with their illnesses and their disease and all the things that are going on in their lives that they need to cope with, if the government has been taking their money to actively block them from getting the actual medicine that works the best for them, then they're culpable, I would think, for a lot. And I think they think that too. I don't know what that means. Are we going to go and round up all the previous justice ministers and prime ministers and police chiefs and hang them by their toes?
Or the next party that's in
I don't think any of those people are going to jail for this, although they really should. But they should live in shame, and maybe that's what they want. Maybe they think they can avoid living in shame for having maintained these policies. Well, most of them knew full well, and if they didn't, they should have, that there's no justification in interfering with a free human being's life who's using a medicinally active herb to help them in their life, a God-given plant. I mean, is this country founded on Christian principles? In God we trust is down there, but it's still part of our charter here. It's still part of what they say they're all about here, and yet they think it's okay. They haven't done the thinking to understand that you can't take one of God's herbs, according to Christian lore, created, in the first chapter of the Bible, within the first few verses of Genesis, God creates all. It says all. The devil didn't make any. It's not the devil's weed. Made all of the seed-bearing herbs and announced that they were for everyone and that they were good for people. Now here we are, how many ever thousands of years later, depends on which Christian you talk to, how many thousands of years or tens of thousands of years later, and we've got governments which are totally disrespecting that which all of this is supposed to be founded on. None of it makes any sense, Glenn.
No, I know.
None of it makes any sense. It's all about making money, and that has to be wrong, especially when people are being harmed and killed by it. It has to be wrong. And it is so wrong. Like, I believe Health Canada has really crossed the line at this point in refusing our application.
Yeah, me too.
It is supposedly, I mean, I have a limited knowledge and understanding of law. I'm not a lawyer. I haven't got degrees. I don't really get some of it, I guess. I mean, obviously I don't. I must be wrong. But in my limited understanding and knowledge, I thought that it was a crime if you actively interfered with someone trying to save a life. Mm-hmm. Like, I thought that was a crime. Are the governments not held, in the same or even a more precarious place with respect to those sorts of crimes? Aren't they in a position of power and supposed knowledge so that they won't breach a law like that? And is it not clearly demonstrated for the last 6.5 years? Have we not done a good enough job of documenting and demonstrating that what we're doing is rescuing people from addiction through the use of cannabis edibles? And hundreds of these people are now walking around that many of them wouldn't be otherwise, just based on statistics for those people using those drugs. We've saved lives here, and we're in the process of doing it every day. We're told by the people that come to us, thank you, you're saving our life.
Thank you for being here, yes.
So, is the government not liable for having broken, this, and obviously broken this law? They're now, by refusing us, actively interfering, not to mention that prior to them refusing us with all their intents to deny, and while it was all in play, we were still under their direction, raided and arrested and charged with selling without a license. Health Canada, it's in the disclosure, was part of all of that going on.
Oh, wow. Even though, yeah.
So while we're actively in application for a license and an application for an emergency exemption to continue what we have been proving for years hasn't hurt anybody, but is saving lives.
So
Are they not culpable for
that? Is
that?
the right hand not telling them what the left hand was doing because they were the special exemption and they might be a different department not talking to these guys?
They were in on it.
They were in on it.
They were in on it. I mean, I don't know if it was directed, but they were in on it. And they should have come forward and said, these people are... But no, because Health Canada didn't want us to continue what we were doing while we were applying.
Yeah.
They thought we should stop until we got their approval.
Which was never coming.
3 years later, we get their disapproval. No approval ever coming. Meanwhile, we believe it is. They said it would be. It absolutely should be. And we're still paying rent on what was the store and what should be the store because that's part of our application. Like so many other people, like the Healing Tree with Tony up there. For years, he's believed that he's going to get this license to be and then he can work from the inside out with one of his licensed producer friends to try to, to affect good change in the Cannabis Act and in Health Canada. Years. And he's still paying rent there. And he's struggling. And so many other places, Don and Carol with their weed store, they finally did get their licenses after 2 or 3 years of having applied. All that time, continuing to pay high rent on the buildings that they now are occupying. And I don't know if they'll ever get caught up with the amount of margin that they're allowed to charge based on all the other markups from government and other contributors to the supply that they have. Their markup is quite small. The government stores are doing okay because they got a much better deal. But all these private stores, I saw another one close just the other day on Kingsway. A lot of them are closing because they can't make ends meet. From the way dispensaries were before legalization and regulation here in Vancouver, which happened before legalization, there was 7 revenue streams that they were able to have to help pay their rent that were taken away by regulation and then legalization, high-dose edibles being one of them. So these stores are having a real hard time, making ends meet, while the government stores are doing just fine because taxpayers are paying the rent on those stores. A very, very unfair advantage going on here with the government and what have you. So, I don't feel like my rant is quite finished, but
well, we're coming up to 9 minutes.
we're coming up to time.
Yeah,
You know?
I should go and do my producer stuff, and you could tell them about what we're going to do next.
To be continued next week.
Yes, there you go.
On the 200th show.
The 200th
the
show.
Truth, Hope, and Change
200,
show.
yeah.
We've told the truth as best we could for 200 episodes.
There you go.
We've maintained hope throughout it all. And, we've witnessed some change, and we're still working for some more. So we're still relevant, although, every show is probably, a continuation, if not a repetition of the previous show. And they're not all repetitions. I don't usually talk about my hockey history. But, that's what's going on with us, and we're going to continue on. And next week, we're going to have the 200th show. We're going to have a few special guests, as I understand it.
Yep.
There might be some sort of cake that I might even have a bite of. I've sworn off sugar, by the way, for well over a year now. I thought it was the right thing to do. I think it's been a good change, and so I'm very disciplined about such things. And I don't usually take a bite of anything that I think is got that processed sugar in there.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
But we'll see what there are non-processed sugar alternatives for these things as well.
Ice cream. No.
Wow.
I know.
I know we only have a couple minutes. But, have you seen where they take like a glass of Coke and a piece of cake and some ice cream, and they convert it into how much of a pile of white refined sugar is in those things? Yeah. Ice cream tops out.
Really?
Oh yeah.
More sugar than
it is pretty much just liquid sugar.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right. I'll see you tomorrow.
As much as I loved ice cream all my life, I have not had.
Yeah, I indulge it occasionally.
I don't anymore.
We'll see you tomorrow, and
Thank you for everything.
Cannabis.ca, your 420 friendly dating and meeting site.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Cannabis.ca.
Well, that's right. It's okay. I just did a plug for it.
I got it on my list,
It's okay. Don't worry.
I didn't mean to. Last week we didn't say anything about it. People are getting it.
I guess so.
If you're not getting it, you should get it. Cannabis.ca, great place to hook up. For whatever reason you want to hook up. And the reason it's a great place to hook up is because one of the big problems in hooking up can be that you are a cannabis enthusiast and the person that you think is beautiful doesn't like the stuff. And you don't really know sometimes, you meet on and off, in some setting where, that's not disclosed, you don't know. But you go on a date and somehow you got to breach the topic, because there's still stigma around using cannabis. And sometimes it doesn't go well, and it ends what, might have been a great thing. I mean, you had your hopes up and everything. She was beautiful, or he was gorgeous, or whatever. And then, they're not into the weed. And so that ends that, and it's a waste of time. Usually it's a bummer at the end of it. Cannabis people don't like bummers. We try to avoid them. And so the way to do that is Cannabis.ca, because that gets that right out of the way, right off the bat. If you're meeting through Cannabis.ca, you both like cannabis, and so that's great. And whether or not you're using it to hook up with somebody because you ultimately want to have a whole bunch of children and get married and mad, passionate sex for a long time, or whether you just want somebody to smoke a reefer with or help you find some reefer because you're not new, not in the area for long or whatever. You want to hook up. Maybe you just want to keep swiping and just see who looks cool, and get to know cool people. For whatever reason you want to use it, Cannabis.ca is the best resource for doing that. There's nothing like it anywhere. And it's worldwide, it's global, there's apps, there's Play stores, there's other things. Check it out, Cannabis.ca. There you go. And so for us, on the 199th show here, the show started when we were doing our giveaways at Van Du. We had been already 2.5 years into it, and Jeremiah Vandermeer talked me into doing my own show. I had guest hosted his a couple of times and co-hosted a few times with other shows along the way. I had numerous appearances on Pot TV before I had the show, but he finally convinced me that I should do this. And so, I didn't find it very comfortable to begin with. I thought maybe after I had 10 shows under my belt that it would all be good. And that didn't happen. And 100 shows later, I still didn't feel very comfortable. And here we are, 200 shows later, and I really still, there's pressure. I guess I'm just not good with pressure, and I always thought that I was. I am quite competitive. But, it's been an awesome opportunity for me to be able to at least express myself and get it off my chest. And to feel like there's an audience out there potentially, there could be. People could be watching, maybe people of influence are watching, maybe people that will do something about what my concerns are watching. And it gives me an outlet for the enormous rage that I hold inside of me about just how not free that we are, and just how we are lied to by people that we are supposed to be able to trust, and that we pay public servants to be servants, and instead they decide they're masters, and they're not very good masters, and they're corrupt. And that really bothers me a lot. It angered me to the point of quitting my job almost 20 years ago. I'd already been an activist for a few years, several years before that, but I got so a hold of, the actual nub of the issue that I got really, really upset. And I had a very emotional moment there in the construction of what was to be the herb school, and I quit my job. I really felt that there was no motivation or energy on my part left to be able to just go and do a regular job in the world. That this was a very serious issue of so-called public servants deciding that they can prevent, through the criminal law and through criminal penalties, access to a herb that could really, really, really help a lot of people, in the times that we're living in here. And that when I really got a handle on that, I had no choice but to deal with how angry I got about this is really the way it is. My illusion of living in this great country of Canada was shattered that night, and I had to try to do something about it. I had to be the best Canadian I could be, and I had to try to do something about it. I've been trying to do something about it ever since. It's been 25 or 20 some years since that, almost 20 years since that epiphany, and 25 plus years since I started going to the pot rallies and started to get the information that built me to that point where I really understood what was going on and couldn't take it, and went, this is terrible and I can't take this anymore, and I'm not going to just go to work and pretend it's not happening and watch a movie and watch a hockey game and be okay with it all. I can't be okay with it all because I'm really angry. And I really, when I assess it, I've never woken up a day less angry than I was, almost 20 years ago now. In fact, it gets built on all the time. Not everybody, some people, my son, lots of people. My life involves, hearing very tragic stories about how, their lives have been ruined and how terrible it is, and all the rest of it with respect to these corrupt public servants and the greedy bastards that they're really working for. So I'm very happy to have had this opportunity to do the show for the last 199 times. And I'm really happy and thankful to all the people that have helped me do that and make this happen, from Jeremiah to Neil to Glenn and many more that have contributed in many different ways. All the guests, we used to have regular guests on the show for a while. Once we really got to going in the store here, the store became a bigger issue than what would have allowed me to have the time necessary to properly prepare for guests, and the store was the story. And so we have had numerous guests over this last 3 years here, but for the last 3 years of the show, it's been the continuing saga of our efforts to have a low barrier access community cannabis shop. And it never should have been a fight with the government. They should not be wasting our tax dollars to try to prevent low barrier access, in line with what should be happening with the values of our country and our people, and what should be the values of the federal government, the provincial government, the municipal government, and especially Health Canada. We align with those goals, if those were the real goals of these organizations. And that's what I'm telling you is they should be, but they're not. Because our goals are simply to address this public health crisis and the immense injustice of the federal government orchestrating a prohibition against free citizens accessing this natural plant, this herbal medicine, this God-given, amazing, life-saving, life-changing plant. And that has been the focus and what we're doing. So it's going on 6.5 years now that we've been operating the CSP. The CSP is the Cannabis Substitution Program. We provide high dose, well, we call them high dose, but really they're probably normal dose for the people that are using them. That is the dose that they use. They're not higher than what is their required dose. We provide the required dose as best we can for people that are struggling with addiction. That is our primary focus. But we're also there to help people that are involved with some of what could be the drivers of a future addiction, and is the drivers of many people's addiction. The other health defects that people suffer, the insomnia, the depression, the anxiety, and the pain that cannabis is very effective in helping with to prevent people from getting to the addiction point in the first place. So we've been providing this. We were providing it before there was legalization. Legalization did not include us. We're still providing it as criminals, facing criminal penalties, and now with a denial from Health Canada to continue doing what we're doing, we will continue. And we have been providing these high-dose edibles for these people for all of this time. We have 269 members. That's the capacity that we have to be able to deal with what we have going on, and we're restricted in what we can go on by these laws. And so we have 269 members that get access to 420 milligrams of cannabis edibles, every 4 days for free, thanks to amazing donators that have helped us all through these years and continue to do so. And in most cases with me, they go unnamed. We just say we've got these donators. Sometimes we mention some of them, but they are amazing humans that support what we're doing here and have made it possible for us to do that. Once we were able to move into a store, then we had costs that were beyond what donations we could raise, or even we knew that, because to sustain it month after month is very difficult to do. And so we had to come up with a model that would allow for the sale of cannabis to cover the costs. And that's what we did, upon which time we realized that the sale of cannabis is equally as important as the cannabis that we give away to the members that we give it to for, and not just the members. We give away cannabis, edibles, and flower to people that are not members of the CSP as part of the CSP, because we can't include any more members, but we don't turn anybody away. So we're doing all of that. But the sale of cannabis became extremely important for all of those people that will not come and get a free handout, will not identify themselves as a person having a problem with drug use. They need discreet, low barrier dispensing that allows them to come in and purchase and leave. As long as they're obviously over the age that they need to be, there need be no more scrutiny on people, because we have this public health crisis going on. And these people are secret addicts that can't expose themselves for fear of all kinds of different things, be it real or be it not. They can't disclose what's going on, and they need to have a way to deal with it. So it needs to be that there are easy access storefronts and other ways for people to access high-dose edibles, or edibles of high enough dose to be able to assist them through the withdrawal and then replace the use of those substances. And there needs to be a real good media campaign to explain to people that that is the way it works. That is what can happen. You start low and go slow with cannabis edibles, and you will find a level that is right for you for whatever it is you're dealing with. And that needs to be public information, and that needs to be easily available, and that is the fight. That is the legalized movement. That is, in a nutshell, what we've always been fighting for. We didn't know what to call it until now. It's low barrier access. We thought it was legalize and regulate, but they twisted that and made it so that they'll legalize it for you to have it, and they'll regulate it so that only they can sell it to you, and only they can produce it for sale. And that's not what we meant when we said legalize and regulate. We meant low barrier access. And low barrier access for both sides of the equation. Not just for people using and wanting to access cannabis, but for people wanting to produce and supply cannabis to people. They all need low barrier access to a free marketplace that will make those determinations for people itself by public purchasing as to what is and isn't desired. The government has no business in the pot business. For Trudeau to be the biggest drug dealer in Canada is absurd and absolutely abominable when you look at the way that rolls out. That he is a nasty cartel leader, that he is a thief, that he will take public money that was not designed to break into people's houses and destroy their plants and make them criminals and seize all their properties. That is not what he's in power for. He is a thief, he is a criminal, he is a liar. This system of legalization is extremely destructive. It cannot be accepted and entrenched. It must be made to have low barrier access on both ends of the spectrum. These regulations need to disappear, and the government needs to get out of the pot business. And that'll only happen if enough people do something about it. So please be one of those people. We're running a little bit beyond, but that's okay.
Are we going outside?
We'll go outside just for a minute.
All right.
A minute or two. What would it be without the regular THC? Everybody wants to know the weather.
Yes.
It's one of the biggest things. It's what keeps news broadcasts going, basically.
Okay.
And here in Vancouver, it is a beautiful day.
It wasn't when we came in. It
has not been a beautiful day all day.
No, it is.
But right now, right here, this is exactly how you want it. The temperature is right. There's just a little bit of a really nice breeze. The sun is shining.
Finally.
A few clouds over there in the horizon that are going to turn into a fantastic sunset. We have some amazing sunsets here in Vancouver because we're on the ocean the way that we are, the way the clouds pile up against the mountains and stuff, that we get if there's clouds in the sky, you get a nature's art display that rivals any fireworks or anything else that's unique and different every time. And it's amazing to be alive. This is a nice place on the planet to be that.
Yeah.
So here we are in a nice city on a nice day, but in a part of the city that is really not so nice. And if you spend any time here, you find that there's all kinds of people laying on the sidewalks, drugged out, with belongings strewn around them. There's people trying to walk that are all hunched over, that have all kinds of different mental health issues and other physical health issues that end up down here in this neighborhood. There's a lot of poverty here. There's a lot that you could give a quick glance down there. Nobody's going to recognize anybody. But we have that lane there. The other one, that one leads to Hastings and Main, and right there where all those tents were up and down Main Street and Hastings, they're mostly Hastings Street, and all the other stuff that goes on here. So this is a neighborhood that was particularly hard hit when the public health emergency arose of a poison drug supply, that people that were using illegal drugs were all of a sudden dying of overdoses from a contamination of fentanyl and carfentanil into the drug supply in many of the different pills and powders that were available around here. Having knowledge of the way that cannabis edibles in the right dosages can get people off of those drugs, we went to government and we proposed the idea, along with Vandu backing us, of making it as easy as possible to get people access to high-dose edibles to help them get off those drugs. It proceeded from there to actually starting to give them away, and for a year we gave away once a week about 250 care packs of 4 to 6 edibles. Excuse me. Got a frog in my throat talking about frogs and boiling water. And then we went to 2 days a week. We went to Thursdays and Sundays. The government of the municipality of Vancouver supported what we were doing unanimously. We applied to the federal government, and we've been waiting ever since. And now we have a refusal. And here's what they're going to refuse. We want a storefront. We don't want to be in an RV. We've been under attack in this RV. Our front windshield is broken. I have a wooden... Sorry. I have a wooden guard on the window here because they broke the window several times, and I'm tired of paying for it. So we just put wood in there, and had to reinforce it again last night because it was broken into night before last again. There was a weak link in my wooden system there that with enough pressure it would split the wooden bracket on the back. So now I went to plywood instead of wood that will split, and I'm sure they'll still find a way to do that. But all of this is because the government won't give us the permission, the little piece of paper with a signature that says that we're operating a service with their full knowledge, and we are being monitored to make sure that we're doing it in a way that doesn't hurt people. Like every other store and every other business for every other commodity that you could possibly imagine, people have the dignity of walking into a store and getting what it is that they need. And us? No, you can't even have it at all. Maybe you can grow it yourself if you're able to. Maybe you know somebody that'll help you, they'll give it to you, but they can't sell it to you. But this is outrageous. This is not freedom. This is not what any of us thought we were getting when we were told we were free citizens in a free country with public servants and democracy. This isn't what it should mean. We need to make sure it gets back to meaning what it should mean. We need to reset this democracy that we've got going on here, where the corporate elite and the greedy bastards that run this country get to dictate to us how we will be exploited and monopolized and manipulated in ways that make them a ton of money and leave us struggling to make the next rent payment that we have to make. So this is our humble abode, standing firm, never moving, never wavering, no matter what so far. You know, we're not hiding, we're not trying to get away with anything. We're as obvious as we can be about what we're doing here. We tell everybody that asks and everybody that we can find, every police officer that I see, I right away go and try to tell them, hey, you know about us, right? You know what's going on with us, right? Because what's going on is really wrong. The federal government should be investigated, and they should be brought to task for what they've done in limiting our ability as a citizens' initiative to respond to a public health crisis where it's us that are dying. It's our families and our brothers and our sisters and our children that are at risk here, that are being affected by all of this. And the government doesn't want to allow edibles so that people can have a chance at getting off that stuff. Well, this is a citizens' initiative to counter that. To say we're not going to be told that we can't rush in and save our people's lives because you're corrupt. If they had good reason, it might make a difference. If they could justify their position, it might make a difference. But for them to just say, no, you just can't have it. Maybe if you get a doctor, you know, one of those people who works for the pharmaceutical industry that hates cannabis and doesn't want to have anything to do with something that's going to take money out of their pocket, maybe if you can get one of those people to give you their permission, then we'll allow you to access those edibles that you need, but you still can't access them in a store or anything. You're going to have to figure out how to get them elsewhere. Oh, you can buy some edibles from us, you know, but only 10 milligrams at a time, because they know that doesn't work for people trying to get off of hard drugs or dealing with serious issues. So it's a bunch of BS, and we're here every day demonstrating that we have the right way. We don't hurt nobody. Every day we prove again that we can provide these things to people and they are helped, not harmed. So where is a government who has a Health Canada division and has a division within there that is the Special License and Exemption Division? Where are they in doing their job, which is to provide an exemption or a special license to be able to do what we are demonstrating is saving lives? We've proven beyond any reasonable doubt that this should be supported by government, and yet they've decided they're not going to do it even still, and not give any reason for it other than they didn't get enough details from me as to how we would do it their way. Anyway, come on in. Hello, everyone.
Come on in.
How are we?
Never better.
Never better. That's what I like to hear. We did not have a break-in in the RV last night.
Yay!
1 day break-in free. We have to keep updating our little thing there. How many days?
You're like one of those safety boards?
Yeah. There's my little mechanism to hold on the wood there.
There you go.
And those are the plywood pieces.
You need some cherry wood.
I put on last night because the plywood won't split like the other stuff will split. I mean, they could still break this window, they could break that window, they could get a crowbar.
Hey, you're giving them ideas.
Yeah, well.
I kind of want to do it now. Right?
So, how was the day, gentlemen? We're beyond time because I've been ranting away here today.
I felt like you were a little hyped up when I went in there earlier.
You know, I mentioned recently on the show here that I never wake up a day less angry. Believe it or not, I'm driven by rage about the situation that we're in here and the concern that I have for future generations and our present children and brothers and sisters. And I never am any less angry than I started out almost 20 years ago when I really got it and cried my eyes out and said, this is horrible and I can't work another day in the mainstream. I got to do something about this. I believe in having as much fun as you can. I believe that anger is no way to achieve your goals if it's going to be with the driving force behind your actual thought processes, that you need to be more reasoned than that, and all of those things. But the truth is that there is a boiling rage inside of me about how we are controlled and taken advantage of and harmed by the greedy bastards that live in their ivory towers. You know, listening last night to a podcast about, you know, Honey Sherman and the Shermans that were, you know, obviously murdered, and the billions of dollars that they had and all of the rest of that stuff. And these people are the ones behind the suffering and the poverty and the hardship of the rest of our brothers and sisters and sons and daughters. So that rage is never not there, but I don't let it be the one that control or the force that controls my logic and my ability to talk to people and to explain this stuff to you folks and to everybody else. It's important that you know, I continue to have a balance, and I continue to be able to temper that rage in a way and use it in a way that just fuels me to keep going no matter what, but doesn't really affect me in ways of making irrational things. I mean, I'm not going to start talking about all the things that, you know, come to mind that, you know, might change the world. You know, I mean, who you got to kill to get somewhere these days, right? but that's no way to solve an issue. And I don't believe in a violent revolution. I believe in a peaceful evolution of logic and reason overtaking stupidity and greed, and that's what we're fighting for here. So. Join us if you can, please. Join us if you will, and if you have an opportunity. It's the best way to be. If it makes you angry, the things that make me angry, it's best to have an outlet. It's best to have a way to at least feel like you're doing something about it. I mean, not everybody can just go and defy the government and set up a little operation of low barrier access and go through all the hoops and things that I've done to get to where I am and being able to express myself and perhaps make the difference that needs to be made. But we can all do something, and doing something feels a hell of a lot better than doing nothing. That's for damn sure. And so do something. You know, help educate other people about, hey, we're not living in a paradise of warm water here. We're living in boiling water that's been getting heated up moment by moment all through our lives, and it's getting really serious now as they have the surveillance abilities and obviously the enforcement abilities to be able to really lock us down and intimidate us into maybe not ever being able to get the rights and the freedoms that we really should be able to enjoy as free human beings, you know, born into this world, not at our own request probably, and you know, and what we encounter when we get here. We owe it to those coming after us to try to ensure that they have some level of freedom and ability to live their lives and grow and flourish the way that a human being should. So be part of that if you can. You know, write letters, send emails, make telephone calls, talk to the media, talk to everybody. Do what you can. There's a whole bunch of things. And while you're doing that, you know, feel good about yourself. Feel good about all the people around you. Don't hate people. Just understand that they're doing the best that they can. They just don't know anybody, or they're blinded by greed and desperation and all of those things. Don't let that deter you. But continue on. Be kind to everybody that you meet, especially those that are hardest to be kind to. And to yourself, because that's something a lot of people don't understand, is that they need to forgive themselves for whatever it is that they haven't achieved that they thought they could, or for all these different things. We're all just moment by moment being the best we can be with what's going on. So we'll see you next week. Most importantly, as you know, despite all of this terror talk and horrible stuff we're telling you, make sure you have as much fun as you can. See you next week.